Hello everyone, my name is Holden Hardman. Thank you so much for joining me again for another video. I just got a notification that VFX Artist React to Spider-Man 2's Bad and Great CGI just released. I am a huge fan of Corridor Digital and the Corridor crew. They have that talent of making you feel like you're just like among them and one of the guys, and I have such a huge amount of respect for the VFX artists that work on movies and film that was probably elevated because of them. Personally speaking, I love making short films and little skits and whatnot, and I would probably give a lot of credit to Corridor Digital for kind of inspiring me to push a little farther and to not be as afraid of confronting like VFX, so long as it's something that complements and elevates the story that you're trying to tell. I've done a lot of things on my own. I did like some Star Wars lightsaber battle shorts like years ago, and I did the VFX for all that, and a lot of it's like, oh, that looks horrible, looks so bad. But I'm one of those people that believes like if you're doing a short film, a project, make sure you fill it out to completion. Ironic, because there's people on my channel been waiting for me to finish a Spider-Man short film for like a year, and I say that, but I'm still working on it. But in later projects, there have been things that I wouldn't have even attempted to do. I was able to find some great VFX artists now that help me, my buddy Tyler and Devin, obviously, who does a lot of the intros for the channel and a lot of the editing and VFX work depending on the projects that I need, and working with them and trying to figure out the best way that I can film it in real life so that they can have an easier time working on a specific shot or specific scene that I need. And it's because of Corridor that I feel like I've let go of some of my hesitancy or my reluctance to include more VFX style shots and to just kind of go for it. And I am personally currently doing my best to learn more VFX. Blender Guru just released his Blender 3.0 tutorial that I'm working on. A few months ago, I was attempting to work on it too, and I still struggle with some of the hotkeys. It's such a daunting thing, you know, for people that have not done VFX before. And again, another one of those things I love about the Corridor guys is that they're like, anybody can do this with just like a home computer. Obviously specs do matter, but the fact that it's no longer like you don't have to be a multi-millionaire with this incredible $30,000 computer setup to do VFX. You can do it with what you have at home. So I made a really crappy donut, which is like the beginner VFX thing, and I put it on my Instagram, and I was very, very proud of it. I worked very hard on that donut, and it is incredibly rudimentary. But I'm still working on it, still learning, so that I could hopefully be able to do some more of the VFX stuff for my own projects, or at the very least understand what I'm asking of VFX artists that work on projects with me, and understand the amount of time and effort that I am requesting of them. Spider-Man 2, one of my, if not my favorite movie of all time, Tobey Maguire one. I've done video essays on it. I've done tons of videos on Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man in general, but particularly Spider-Man 2. So I'm really curious what they have to say about it. Going into it, I am already pretty aware of a lot of the VFX work that went into Spider-Man 2. The Raimi Spider-Man 2 the most. I do know a good bit about Amazing Spider-Man. I don't know if they're gonna go into Far From Home. I'm guessing a little bit just from the thumbnail, but don't know a whole lot about that, you know, behind the scenes on that one. Love to hear what they have to say. Let's go ahead and get into it. And of course, you can't forget your Raycon earbuds. I hope you're sponsored in this video. I help you all out.
Today we are looking at Spider-Man 2 and
Spider-Man 2.
And
Spider-Man 2.
That's right, we are looking at all of the Spider-Man 2s today because, you know, Spider-Man 2 is one of my favorite movies.
Spider-Man 2 is arguably also one of the worst Spider-Man films.
I love hearing that.
Let's talk about Spider-Man 2.
Anybody here take shop class?
This is an incredible scene objectively.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
This scene is a perfect scene.
Those tentacles look pretty real through that whole thing.
They do.
If I was watching this movie now, like let's say this movie came out last year, I would guess the tentacles are 100% CG for the entire thing.
Oh yeah.
But they're not. In fact, they are practical far more often than you think. You might think like, oh, it's just like little close-up shots where I got the little like things going tick, 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 tick. But they actually had 16 puppeteers on set for any shots that had all 4 arms in motion.
I believe it. So like 4 people per arm.
And they have all these sticks like foot pedals, and one dude controls all the different articulating fingers on the
right.
end of
No
the
way.
Oh, here it is.
Oh yeah, look at that.
I'll
But
peel
take,
the
for
flesh
example,
from her
the bandana
bones.
coming
Ding,
off
ding,
of
ding.
Alfred Molina's
I was
head.
actually wondering about that because it's like, okay, you can have the little digital guy, it looks pretty good, but it actually grabs
practical,
onto his
yeah.
bandage and pulls it off.
What you're seeing here on screen is exactly what they're getting in camera on the day.
But what I'm seeing here is that CG is very hard to do specular highlights that are out of focus and sharp. And this has it very well. Like, look at the tentacles on the left there in the background. Like, look at all the hot white spots there. They're perfectly sharp, they're out of focus in a very natural feeling way. If they were to do that CG, it'd be a little bit softer, it wouldn't quite be so sharp. And plus when those things like open up and retract, there's a little bit of like gratingness to it as it retracts.
I can see
You
one
see
go
that, like,
up, and then I saw it like bump and go like,
yeah, like it's on like a rough track.
That's something that you would never animate. Or like, I mean, if you did animate, you'd be bragging about it all day.
So this right here, I think is very easy to say is fully CG tentacles because of their motion. They're moving in a way that you can't quite puppet very easily. There's a lot of things happening.
Well, also, if you look at the cloth dangling on the arms that before it falls off, it looks pretty CG.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I didn't even think about the cloth. But look at that. You're totally right. It's well done, though.
It's very well done. So
Looks good.
This is 2004. Rendering is coming along. They're able to make things look pretty photoreal. But something like that fabric not only requires a certain level of detail that they probably didn't bother with in this shot because it's so fast, but you have a lot of like translucency and the way light works through fabric. It's really tricky. The biggest thing though is that the motion here. Like at the end of the day, it's like animation is what gives away things being CG. And it's not that the motion is unrealistic to a certain extent, it's that it moves so fast and it's so wild and free that you wouldn't be able to puppet something like that.
There's one sequence there I wish they would have touched on a little bit. I don't know if they'll go back and do it, but talking to the practicality of that scene obviously has some reminiscence to Sam Raimi's earlier work in The Evil Dead, who, by the way, on this channel I was able to talk to and interview the guy who did a lot of the stop motion of the original Evil Dead trilogy with Sam Raimi. There was a scene that always kind of freaked me out as a kid, and it's that scene where the lady is like on the ground and she's being dragged and you just see all the scuffs and whatever. You know what, now that I say this, I think Corridor actually already talked about this, but it was wax that they put on the ground, but it looks like it's her fingernails being ripped off. Just a cool little fun thing I wanted to throw in there.
Let's take a look at the shot when they're on the side of the building. So this here I'm pretty sure is practical.
Yeah, it's wire,
Yes.
The
wire
arms,
work.
I think, are probably CG because they're piercing into the brick wall.
I like how they have them like
This
Look at
bobbing
shot
there.
here.
CG Spider-Man.
Full CG
Yeah,
here.
and CG Doc Ock.
Exactly. Doc Ock is also CG. The building was CG. Everything in this shot is CG right now. 100%.
Looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, looks
does look-
CG, but it also looks great.
Something kinetic about it that just works really well that you don't notice that it's VFX just right off the bat.
Another thing I think about this scene is a lot of it has weight to it. You'll see it in movies like Clifford, or like anytime there's like a CG animal and they're like picking up the animal and there's no weight, and you can tell that the actor is like interacting with nothing. I think one of the reasons that the CG sells so much in this particular shot, aside from just obviously just looking good, is that you feel the weight of both Spider-Man and Doc Ock and the weight of the arms grabbing onto different parts of the building and pulling it down, and things are just falling. They talk a lot about the animation of it, but it's one of those animation things that I think helps sell this shot, or at least adds a little, like 5-10% more to the shot.
Some things I also want to touch on here is the animation. So the animation's great, like it's awesome. And they did a bunch of development research before they actually went out and shot these scenes. They looked at octopuses, right? Doc Ock, let's look at octopuses. However, a couple of issues arose. One, when octopuses are underwater, they're kind of weightless, and that's not really the right look for the arms. So they're still flexible, but it's much more inspired by a snake than it is an octopus. And all of that research and all of that practice, and probably all of the puppeteering, really added up to animators being able to make really informed, intelligent, characterized motion for Doc Ock, which makes these cool scenes even cooler.
Yes, one of the most iconic
This
scenes
is one of the
in
most
superhero.
iconic sequences in all of superhero
Thank
movies.
you, Ren.
Period.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before in Stuntman React too, but this is a good action scene, partially because it's always setting up little mini problems that
Yes.
require clever solutions.
Yes.
When he's on the ground and he's losing the train, let's skate along the ground, pulling with my web to drive
Yes.
myself. Like, that's super clever. It can only be done by Spider-Man.
Yep.
That's just one of the
I love
hundreds
it.
of cool little problems he has to solve throughout this entire sequence.
That face is a little ridiculous, though.
No, I mean, I'd love to see your face when you stop a train.
Exactly, thank you, Sam. People give Toby a hard time for that, but
Summarizing this Spider-Man 2, it really just comes down to expert craftsmanship in the intent
Yes.
of what's going into the shot. You know, it's not just like throw a bunch of CG at it. It's like they know when to use stuff practically, they know when to make it digital,
Preach.
how to put it all together, and just the choreography and the animation, just it's so well thought out and planned.
The movie's also super cohesive in that even the action scenes feel like they're set in the same movie with the same actors and the same director as the dialogue scenes. And granted, you know, there's a bunch of talented people that are informing the action design and the visual effects and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of modern movies where your dialogue scenes and your action scenes are just completely different styles.
Yeah.
And might as well be made by completely two different directors, probably because they are.
All right, Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, we've done Amazing Spider-Man 2 on the channel before when I showed my buddy Matt and when I showed my fiance Jen. This is one of those movies I know gets a lot of crap, and I, believe me, have plenty of issues with it. I don't think it's like this steaming hot pile of garbage that kind of everybody says that it is. I would even argue that the suit, obviously I'm soft on the Raimi Spider-Man suit, but I could definitely see the argument that this is the most comic accurate Spider-Man suit that we've ever gotten, especially with the kind of bigger eyes. One of the things I bet you they're going to talk about in just a second is this opening scene where Spider-Man is falling and he's flying down, and you see those ripples in his suit. I think this looks pretty dang amazing. Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah, see his suit as it ripples.
To the Amazing Spider-Man 2. It's the second
sequel. I love that.
Reboot.
It's Spider-Man 2.
So I watched this movie last night, and I have to say, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Aw.
It is so bad.
No, I wouldn't say that.
It has some of the dumbest writing I've ever seen in a movie.
Maybe a little bit.
Electro is the dumbest written character I've ever seen. So having said all that, this movie actually does do some things with visual effects that I think are well done.
It does.
And namely, I think the web physics and the suit are very well done in this movie.
Agreed.
Here's the thing, Spider-Man always looks like a smooth, Gumby type of guy. Like Spider-Man, when he's flying around and he's CG, he looks like he's just buttery smooth.
Exactly. In this movie, they intentionally made the suit a little looser, a little more loose-fitting, so that they can get the wrinkles and the rippling of the suit.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The animation's pretty nice in
This shot right here, I love.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Like as he goes around the building on the right here.
That's really cool, actually.
I know they're not talking about the first Amazing Spider-Man, but I remember when the scene where it's like his POV and he's like running along and he jumps on the mirror or whatever and he sees his reflection. I remember that was like right when Mirror's Edge just came out, and I remember thinking that sequence was kind of cool to see, doing a shot where you see what Spider-Man is seeing, and that shot they just did where they had the angle kind of below so you could just see the symbol and part of his head reminded me of that shot. I don't know if it was a callback to the first movie or if the director just likes those sort of POV GoPro, like if you just put a GoPro on you type of shots, but I like them a lot too.
You're designing the suit, it's like, all right, what's your reference? Like, I mean, it's skydiving, right? That's your reference. It's still gonna ripple because you're just going that fast. Look, you can even almost see like underwear lines.
Love that shot.
It makes such a freaking difference. Like, even though I see stuff from the new Spider-Man 2, and I like you look at the suit and you're like, what? It's like literally Mr. Smoothie or whatever.
Mr. Smoothie!
No, but really, you're like, am I watching this at like 240p or is this at like 1080? Like, you can't tell if there's like, oh, maybe it's just a wash of compression. That's why I don't see any details. Like, no, there isn't a lot of detail.
I think the Amazing Spider-Man really nailed the look of a Spider-Man suit because it feels like a suit, you know? It doesn't feel like his skin is just Spider-Man colored. My complaints about this movie are more about like the filmmaking and storytelling and writing. The visuals overall are pretty dang good. And then we get to this end sequence here and it just kind of like...
Dude, I'm getting Lawnmower Man vibes. Don't you hate when you turn and you see a car?
Man, if only you could fly, then you wouldn't be hit by cars.
Yeah, why don't you just fly up like a foot higher?
It moves a lot like,
it's not like he didn't see it
what was
coming.
that game?
He turns
Second Son?
and sees the car coming.
This really speaks to the dichotomy of like big budget movies that always irks me, which is you literally have cutting edge, incredibly sophisticated CG with like inventive problem solving going on, and it's just, you know, millions of dollars and thousands of people working on it. And then the best they can do for Emma Stone's arrival is just she hits him with the car because he's floating 2 feet off the ground. He goes, huh? It's like you got so sophisticated and advanced with one thing, and the other one has about as much creative effort as like, you know, a 5-minute idea in a boardroom meeting.
So
A lot of great technical achievements.
oh my God! Oh snap! Dude, Keith!
Oh, it's Keith.
Oh man!
I love you guys. I had to just interrupt.
I watch these guys so much that like people like Guy, I just recognize instantly. So whenever I was first showing Jen Captain America Civil War and Captain America Winter Soldier, and prior to that, whenever I saw him on screen, I like point him out. I love the camaraderie of these guys. Their like group setting has this way of making you feel like you're vicariously experiencing, like you're there with them, you're hanging out with these guys just talking about movies, which I love.
Now, from a story perspective, I do think the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies are excellent.
I agree.
I think they're very good movies.
I think Spider-Man 2 also is really cool because it does have the most meta villain in any of them, because Mysterio is literally wearing a motion capture suit.
So what's the design called?
Sierpinski.
The Sierpinski pattern. It's essentially a fractal of triangles. We've already looked at the whole dream sequence in a previous episode, linked down in the description. Check it out.
You're a very difficult person to contact, Spider-Man.
So in this next scene, I want you guys to guess where the VFX are happening.
This is just a normal dialogue scene.
Is Samuel L. Jackson's goatee CG?
All right, I'm just gonna say there's 2 visual effects happening.
Let me guess, his gun is CG.
Yep.
Wait, for real?
Yeah, he's holding a stick with tape on it. He's not even in the room.
I was actually gonna mention
Oh,
that.
wow.
They filmed these 2 halves of the conversation separately. He's on a green screen.
Dang it!
That's
I was
awesome.
gonna guess that.
I had no idea. I
Not
didn't know
even
that.
there.
No, they're
Not
like
even there.
maybe it was a scheduling thing,
It
probably.
was probably
yeah.
a scheduling thing.
It's so funny when you. It's like the simplest of scenes, basically. Guy sitting in a chair talking to another person in a room, and it's just we comped a man. They were never actually.
That's Marvel for you.
And it looks great. You would
It
never
does.
suspect
You
would
can't
never
tell.
think of a single thing. You wouldn't even look at the gun in the hand and go like, oh, that's fake. It's like, no, it's totally invisible.
Spider-Man is great and all, but what if it was a little bit more rated R? Well, guess what? We did that, and it's coming out on this channel tomorrow, so subscribe.
Can't
for
wait.
that.
I love these guys. They do so. I'll go ahead and wrap it up there. It's a really good time to be a Spider-Man fan. I can't wait to check out those videos. Anytime they've done like where they take the movies and they do their own VFX to make them rated R. Home Alone is one that I remember being really, really funny. They're always a good time. If the opportunity ever arose, I don't know if we have a whole lot of overlay and people who watch them versus who watch me, but I would love to do some sort of collaboration with them, or at the very least just say, hey, it's really awesome. I appreciate you guys' work. I'm a big admirer of it. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed watching along with me, I know I didn't give a whole lot of my own opinions on this stuff, and that's because I just learn a lot from them. And I just like hearing their insights and how a lot of this stuff works. But that's it. If you enjoyed the video, leave it a like. It does help the channel out a lot. Comment down below. I'd love to know your thoughts on my reaction to the Corridor Crew guys reacting to all the Spider-Man 2 movies so far. Subscribe if you want to see more fun content like this. Consider checking out my Patreon. I do early access to select videos. And as always, I appreciate you watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care.